What's up guys? Today we're going to be going over the top 3 PvE loadouts this season. Usually after the first week or two of the season, once I've had time to unlock all the new stuff and play around with all the new weapons, mods, and armor pieces, I like to put out this video and show off the 3 best weapon loadouts this season, and this will mostly be covering the weapon loadouts. I'll also be going over the builds that I use with those weapons along the way. My code AIR is 30% off for G Fuel through tomorrow, so definitely take advantage of that. It'll be the last time until next month, I believe. So go ahead and click the link in the comments description. It'll take you over to their store and automatically apply my discount code. So let's go ahead and begin with the best loadout this season. It revolves around the Vex Mythic class, which probably will not surprise anyone here, due to its huge buff to not only the weapon itself, but also the extra damage from the Callus and the rate of fire changes. It has quickly become one of the best weapons in the history of the game, and I pair that with the Corsair's Wrath, which is the linear fusion rifle from Season of the Hunt that you can farm from the lure. I use this one because it is solar, and that's be very important for my overall build. And the roll I got is High Impact Reserves and Outlaw, which is the best roll possible on the weapon. Now I pair that with the new Stasis Shotgun with Harmony, because I'll be using Vex a lot, which will proc the Harmony buff on the shotgun at all times pretty much. So that works really well. You could also pair it with a Blinding GL. I think the Blinding GL is the better option. I'm mostly just using Shotgun because it is something new, but I think in most situations you'll get more mileage out of the Blinding GL. And look at the build I use with this. I use Bottom Tree Dawnblade. Now I use the Quick Charge Stacks on Stacks and High Energy Fire loop for infinite high energy fire. Then we have Elemental Armaments to create Elemental Wells. Then we have Phantom Might also, so when we pick up those wells, we'll get a 25% buff to our solar weapon damage, which will be stacking with things in the game. And of course we have Particle Deconstruction, which is the artifact mod that makes fusions and linears absolutely insane this season. And the thing about this build is it's also really good for activities with champions. You just throw on this mod right here, which will make your solar or stasis melee disrupt overload champions. Then you can put on an AR for anti-barrier. Of course, you have the unstoppable fusion rifle. And one person on your team can also put on a kinetic bow with overload bow. That way you can stop the champions from range too. So with those champion mods going on, you alone can do all 3 of the champions, which makes this a really good build for Legend Lost Sectors to get the solo clears and the new exotic armor pieces. And it's just really good for Nightfalls in general. I was using this build this week in the Master Nightfall while 20 light under, and it pretty much felt like playing it on light with Vex with the full combo going. You're just still shredding through enemies left and right, and whenever you get up to a high health target, all you have to do is shoot them a few times and swap over to the linear fusion mode, or pull out your power linear fusion rifle, and both will just melt through the higher health targets. You have your Blinding GL to keep things under control. Overall, is this one of the most solid builds in the history of the game, to be honest. The Vex alone is doing the DPS of a special weapon while in its primary form. Then it has the DPS of a power weapon with its linear fusion mode, and all this has infinite ammo and pretty much infinite uptime in PvE, which is absolutely insane. And yeah, I think that is pretty much all there is to say about this build. It is honestly just one of the best of all time. Then moving on to the second one, we're going to be using 1000 Voices or Sleeper depending on which one you have. I think 1K is a little bit better overall, but this build will be a little bit better for boss fights compared to the Vex one. And with this, we're going to pair it with your fusion rifle of choice. Once again, I want to pair it with a sword one for my build, so I'm using the Dreambreaker from the Moon. And my roll is Left from Gold and Surrounded, which is more or less the best roll you can get on this weapon, and it is really strong. But you could even pair this with the Plug 1 or Null Composure with Reservoir Burst, and that would work really well too. But the secret sauce of this build is the Judgment with Demo and Osmosis. And at some point, I will more than likely just make a video on this hand cannon alone. But this roll is absolutely nasty for Warlocks because of the way it will pair with Verity's Brow on any subclass. And once again, for this build, I'm usually using Bottom Tree Dawnblade with Particle Deconstruction like usual. Then I have Elemental Armaments to create Elemental Wells. Then I also have Explosive Wellmaker to create even more solar elemental wells. Then we also have Elemental Ordnance to create even more elemental wells from our grenades. So we have 3 different ways to create solar elemental wells. Then when we pick those up, we have Font of Wisdom to get our super very quickly. Then we finally have Phantom Might once again. So now all 3 of our weapons will be solar in this build, and we'll be creating solar elemental wells all over the place because of our grenades, and also just the final blows with our solar weapons. So we will have Font of Wisdom and Phantom Might pretty much at all times. And like I mentioned multiple times, the 25% buff from Phantom Might is stacking with other buffs in the game. So having that buff up at all times will result in the highest DPS possible in the game with 1K. And in this build, we don't have the high energy fire combo going, because a lot of time for active we'll be using our Judgment / our grenades, which means we would have pretty much no uptime on the 3 mods and just be wasting those 3 sockets. So we pretty much just double down on elemental wells. And when we get up to a boss, instead of having high energy fire comboed with Font of Might, what we can do is just drop an Empyrean Rift and it'll still be the exact same full combo. So overall with this build, you're using your Judgment, which is solar with Demo on it, to get more and more nades that you throw. And on Bomb Tree, they're extremely good now. They're pretty much like Sunshot, but for anything they touch, and will chain explode just like Combustion. So that is your main form of Ag Clear. And while you're doing that, you'll be creating all kinds of the solar elemental wells, which will then prep your fusion rifle for majors or your 1k for bosses. So this build and the Vex build are by far the two best ones this season, and that could be pretty much the end of the video. They are like the two big dogs this season. I think the Vex one is a little bit better for just all-around gameplay, while this one's a little bit better for boss fights, but honestly they're both extremely good at everything. And just like the Vex build, this one can be changed up for champions and be good pretty much anywhere in the game. And finally, the third build, which is just kind of like one of my go-to things I still like to use, is the Stasis Turret build. And this season we're going to be using the Peace Bond, one because it's a stasis weapon and it's just really good. And I want Demo or Headstone on it. On my account, I don't have it yet. You could, in theory, also do this with the Stasis Hand Cannon this season that has Headstone on it. You just have to change up one of the mods. And with that, I pair it with the Salvo, which is still one of the best Ag Clear specials in the history of the game. Then I finally have the Deathbringer 2, which is really good for DPS and also Ag Clear. So this is more or less just an updated version of the build from last season. And like I mentioned, the whole point of this build is just to use the Stasis turrets and spam them as often as possible, which is really good in in-game content. Then if we look at the mods we'll be using, we're going to be using 4 firepowers. Then the 5th mod will depend on if you're using the Peace Bond or the Stasis Hand Cannon. I use Swift Charge for the sidearm, but you can honestly just use Taking Charge and it'll work the same way with any of your weapons. You just got to pick up the Orb of Light. But the main reason I like to do it with a Peace Bond is because it is Stasis, which means it works with Verity's Brow, while nothing else in the game will, outside of weapons with Osmosis or the Stasis Hand Cannon. So you guys know how this build works. You just get a few kills to become a Charge of Light, then you convert your grenade into the turret, and before you know it, there's 40 of them on the ground, and just everything's frozen left and right. And overall, this build is as good as it ever was, and the Peace Bond is a good addition to the build. It's a super solid weapon overall. Then the fact that it's Stasis and can get Demo and Headstone just make it even better. The Salvo is still insanely good for group Ag Clear, and the Deathbringer is really good for single target damage and really good for group Ag Clear. And honestly, if you want to, you could update this build to have fusion rifles in it. All you would have to do is run 4 firepowers, then on your bond run particle deconstruction and Taking Charge, which would add up to 10 energy. And then you could run 1k and a fusion, and that would work really well too. So yeah, those are my top 3 weapon loadouts for the season. The first 2 are the main hard-hitting ones that are definitely like hardcore in the meta. The third one is just still one of my favorite builds all around for Stasis. Anyways, let me know what weapon loadout you've been using this season. Once again, my code ERROR is 30% off for G Fuel through tomorrow. Thanks for watching. Catch you guys next time.